gap that I needed to stand in. And I'm a gap filler. You see a need, fill a need. So that is absolutely why it's important. That tells, a good amount of who I am and the type of organization and seriousness that I bring to celebrating our heritage. I think it's absolutely imperative that we do it, because every child needs to be able to see a celebration of who they are and where they've come from.
I was excited to see, because we was going to do a Juneteenth event. I know we talked to you about it earlier prior to this meeting, but we was going to do one. And when I Googled and looked it up, and I was like, oh, babe, they already got one going on. He was like, what?
Right.
Born and raised. He's like, when that started? I'm like, we need to find out. So we got in touch with a friend of ours that knew someone and sent us the email, and then we was able to join the Zoom call from there. But it was amazing seeing that lit me up, because the only thing we were able to do was during COVID was something online with a friend of ours that was living in Africa at the time. Now she moved back to the States, but she was in Africa. So we called it the Emancipation Movement. And so so she was able to get Dr. Boyce Watkins to speak, and it was great to have so many different people on the call, and we was excited about that. But since then, we didn't see anything else, and so we was excited to see that something else was going on, especially in little New Bern. It's like, okay.
And that spoke volumes for me. And that really spoke volumes for me, being born and raised here. I can't even lie. Everybody always celebrated the 4th of July, Independence Day. And it was just, Juneteenth was not taught here. It was honestly, I'll be honest, it was a few years ago before I honestly knew about Juneteenth. And then we celebrated it, we implemented it to our family and stuff like that. But a lot of people didn't know. A lot of people still don't know. Like when when we were in Indiana, I was saying, "Hey, happy Juneteenth" to people, and it was like, "What is that?" And that's when it hit me, like, wow, we really need to educate, like you said, educate the young, and not just the young, older people as well, because again, a lot of people just did not know about it, and a lot of that stuff was hidden on purpose. So we ain't even gonna go there. That's another conversation.
Absolutely. I don't think Juneteenth is a part of CRT. I don't think it's any of that. You don't have to be super critical to understand it. It's very, even the youngest of children whom we have, essay contests and stuff for regarding Juneteenth in the past we did, can understand that concept of emancipation and celebrating, being able to celebrate your fellow Americans having another level of freedom and empowerment. That's not hard. Kids can understand that. So it tells me that it was hidden on purpose. It absolutely was. Because again, the shock for me was going outside of Buffalo and realizing people didn't celebrate it. And for us, it was like it was a holiday. Like you literally got off early. So you could go. And I'm like, man, you ain't got no turkey legs, no dashikis, no oil, no nothing. Y'all not doing nothing. Man. So, but I also understand the dynamics of growing up in the North and growing up in the South. A lot of their culture that I did see that looked like what Juneteenth was back at home were like football games and homecoming and stuff like that. That's the energy that we have around Juneteenth in North and Buffalo. So to come here and not see that energy put into our history and our culture, but more or less we could do athletically or physically, it was like we are so much more than that. Although I love football, like I am a true fan, but I want to be just as hype about the people that came before us and laid the path for us to be able to do the things that we do. And one of those other things too that I want to differentiate with people are that Juneteenth was celebrated here. They had one event probably 2 years before I came around and was really talking about it. I didn't know anything about it, or either like just right before I might have moved here. I moved here in 2015. So they said before I got here, there was a program, but it never stuck. It was like 1 year and then it was gone.
Right.
What is the closest thing around here that they celebrate is John Canoe. And I would ask folks to, if you hear this podcast, to go out and do your research on John Canoe, because just as people are ignorant about Juneteenth, and ignorance, I mean uneducated in Juneteenth, I was ignorant to John Canoe and couldn't understand the allure of it, because to me, and this is my immature mind before I really, it settled in my mind that is another cultural celebration that is not talked about as much. I was like, John Canoe sounds like slave Christmas to me. And why would slaves be celebrating Christmas?
Right.
You know, for me, I was like, how do y'all have that but don't have Juneteenth? You know, liberation and freedom. But I said all that to say, not yet. I said all that to say that I had to learn, I had to be educated by Miss Sharon Bryant about the significance of John Canoe. So very, very briefly, John Canoe, if you don't know, it's only celebrated like in the Caribbean and here in New Bern. So when we talk about the interesting things that come out of New Bern is an absolute gem in the crown of North Carolina. If people don't know, they need to come visit New Bern. If all you know about North Carolina is Charlotte or Raleigh, they need to come to New Bern, because there is so much history steeped in this little area. And for it to have been the first capital of North Carolina, it was for a reason. There is stuff here that is appealing to so many people. So John Canoe was the time of year where slaves could go from plantation to plantation, house to house, master to master, performing songs and dance for trinkets from the master. Now, whether that was gifts or, you know, of wine or food, or going to be able to see your spouse that was taken to a nearby plantation, or your children that were sold off. This was the only time of year that an enslaved person could potentially go to another plantation and see people that they knew. So, or their plantation. So John Canoe, it was a merry time in a sense, if there ever could be. It was a time for them to be able to go see, you know, and at least have some sort of hope of what they could possibly accomplish that day. So for me, I was like, that's where cooning comes from. When we say Black folks are cooning and they performing for the white masters, they got it from John Canoe, John Coonery. So that's where that term cooning comes from. It comes from John Canoe, performing for masters in order to receive trinkets. And what I didn't understand, and what Ms. Sharon had to explain to me, was that was also a time for them to go spread knowledge and information to other plantations, like escape routes.
Right.
So I had to look at it for the lemonade and not the lemons in order to respect it. Now I have a much different appreciation for John Canoe than I had before, but they are both beautiful celebrations of our culture, of how we took a bad situation and turned it into empowerment.